Have you heard about God's toolbox? God's toolbox has the most fabulously fantastic tools you could ever imagine. He has got the world's coolest tools. They're not like our tools. It's not like screwdrivers and drills and saws and hammers. No! I mean, he's got all those. Don't get me wrong. Everybody needs a good drill and a good hammer and a good saw. This is true. Everybody needs a good roll of duct tape. A WD 40, a Leatherman. But let me tell you about the tools that God has in his toolbox. First, this is my personal ultimate favorite. My personal ultimate favorite tool. I love it when God uses this one. It's the coolest thing ever. You should see it happen. One day you will. Ask him to show you. It's the universe stretcher. Oh, when God goes into his toolbox and he pulls out the universe stretcher, you, you know how many people come around to watch that? Dude, it is a show you don't want to miss, man. When he pulls that universe stretcher out, oh, people just gather around from miles around. All his creation, anybody, anywhere that just wants to see something cool because he pulls that thing out. Of course, it's not heavy to God. Nothing's heavy to God. But it sure looks heavy, man. I think it's made of like some kind of special alloy metal derived from nebulas and stardust and starlight and gases from nebulas and metals from asteroids, and it's all fused together to make the ultimate strongest metal in all of existence. And it has a handle on the top. Everybody just stands back in awe as he hovers it down, holds it over the universe, attaches one side to one end, attaches the other side to the other end, adjusts a few dials. Well, first he turns it on, of course. Ooh, it starts to hum. Oh. It's powered by all the power of a million galaxies spinning. Because, did you know that there's actually a pattern and an order to all the galaxies spinning? And the reason they do is because they're actually power generators to power God's tools. And specifically to power his universe stretcher. They're not just spinning out there for nothing. They're spinning in order for purpose. They're power generators. And they send up all their power into his universe stretcher. And it hums and it hums and it hums with all the power of a million galaxies coursing through it. And he presses a few buttons. Boop, 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 boop. How wide he wants to stretch the universe. How long. And for how long. And at what speed. Now, mind you, he likes to go at a pretty fast speed because Speeds to us and speeds to God are very different things. Fast to us, it's pretty slow to God. So, when he turns that thing on slow, it looks fast to us. But when he turns it on fast, dude, the speed of light ain't nothing. I mean, we're talking a million times faster, a zillion times faster than the speed of light. This is why when he pulls out the universe stretcher, boy, people just step back in awe and they just watch. So he turns a few dials, click, 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 presses a few buttons, doot, 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 puts some programs into it. It's kind of like a computer, but it's kind of like a spiritual computer. Because spirit power is stronger than electricity and metal. This thing runs on spirit power. Ooh. When he puts in just the right program, just the right dimensions of how big he wants to stretch any given universe, not just ours. He's got an infinite number of universes, you know. In case you didn't know, there's not just one. And he stretches them all, boy, at will. Whenever the fancy strikes him. He's been stretching ours for a long time. Still going, boy. Hasn't stopped yet. So he chooses a universe and he puts that thing on, gets the right measurements, the right program in there, and then he cranks the dial, boy, to go. And that thing starts powering out and stretching the universe. And the cool thing is that most of God's tools, they all work together. A lot of God's tools, they all work together. He has a ton of tools. Way more tools than any humans have. But some of his tools, they all work together. So usually, not always, but usually when he's stretching the universe, he has other tools going too. Tools like the planet creator. The planet creator is a really cool tool. He pulls it out of the box. Ooh. He actually doesn't even touch it. Because it just has it's just surrounded by energy. So it actually sits a little bit above his hand. He pulls it out and he sets it down. Now this one is so cool that when he pulls it out, everybody doesn't just stand back in awe. Everybody gathers around to watch it happen. Because it is so cool. It's like it's a enclosed machine and everything happens inside of it. Whereas the universe stretcher is an outside machine. It affects everything outside of it. But the planet creator, it's enclosed. But because God is so cool, he made windows in it. So you can look inside and watch it happening. So here's what he does. He gets it out, sets it in the middle of the space for everybody to come watch. And first, he adds ingredients. All kinds of ingredients. Now, it depends on what kind of planet he's going to make, right? I mean, he doesn't make all planets like Earth. Some planets are completely different. Like Planet 76 in Quadrant 9. That planet, when he created it, he added stardust and starlight and some gases from some nebulas that are so far away that they've never even been created. So there's not even names for them. But he put just the right amount of those gases in. And then he got some minerals that were swirling in a giant cloud of burnt out stars. Minerals that had been floating around as the stars had collided with each other. And old planets had collided with the stars in old galaxies that had crumbled and collapsed. And all the stars and the planets and the asteroids, they'd all crashed into each other. And all the fire had gone out of them. And it was just mostly dust. And when all these planets and these stars, they crash into each other and they just spin in the galaxies, but all the fire is going out. And it gets so cold in space, like minus 803 million degrees. Something happens to those minerals. Their makeup becomes so incredibly vibrant and filled with new life and new energy, like brand new energy that's never even been heard of or created before. And God takes this dust and he puts just the right amount into his planet creator. Has to be the right amount to mix with the gases. And then he takes from other universes, he takes colors that don't even exist in our universe. Because in different universes, there's different colors. So he'll take a little bit of a completely unique color from universe 402 and put it over here into universe 212. Or whichever universe he's at. And he'll mix those colors just the right amount. And all these things, the gases and the dust and the colors, they start to swirl as God starts to push a few buttons, turn a few dials, and depending on what kind of planet he's creating, a lot of times he'll turn up the heat. He'll have just the right amount of heat that he turns on. And the heat actually cooks all the gases and the dust and the colors. And depending on the kind of planet it is, he'll throw some water in there. And that water will interact with the other gases that he's got in there. And God will make the thing spin. Assuming it's a round planet, because there's planets that aren't round. It'll spin. And everybody gathers around. And you just look in the windows of the planet creator. And you're just like, oh. And you can watch these planets start to form. And it takes a while to create planets. Usually it takes several years for them to form just right. Sometimes thousands of years. Sometimes millions of years. But nobody ever gets bored of watching the planets get created inside the planet creator. And then the ultimate moment where God says, hey, I think it's done. Everybody gathers around. They say, oh, he's going to pull it out. So they gather around as God shuts everything down, turns the dial down, slows it down, turns down the heat. The planet slowly stops spinning. And God opens the lid. And out floats the planet with new colors and new smells and new clouds and new minerals have never been heard of before, ever in any universe anywhere. And he says, what are we going to name it? That's always a fun one. And he lets everybody help him name them. People come up with the best names. And he says, where are we going to put it? In what universe? It's so cool that he lets people help decide this stuff. These are only two God's tools. He's got more. Tune in next week when you'll hear about